Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt. I'm very happy to be back for the Script Awards Los Angeles podcast. We've done a few episodes already, and my guest today is Bob Dawson. Is it Bob? Is it Robert? How should I call you?
Hi, Matt. Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. Officially, Robert, but please call me Bob.
Bob will do. Okay, sounds good. So I know that you are fairly new to script writing. You wrote a few projects already, I think 4 of them, but you describe yourself as, on your profile, as a later in life writer. So my first question is not going to be about writing. It's going to be, what was your life before you started writing? Where do you come from? What job did you have?
Yes, this is a new hobby and pastime for me. In 2025, I retired from 25 years working in the pharmaceutical industry, in the health policy and government relations area in Canada. It was a great job, loved it. I had the opportunity to take some courses as a hobby for screenwriting. And I started to develop that. And then now that I'm retired, I had more time to really sort of spend some time on it. So that's why I'm sort of a later in life scriptwriter. Still amateur, still rookie, still looking for feedback. And that's brought me here.
Tell me just a little bit more about your job in the pharmaceutical industries, because it has nothing to do with script writing, I guess. And nothing I've seen browsing your script, nothing is connected to that. So script is really a new venture, a new endeavor.
That's right. I know you're supposed to sort of, rule number 1 is write what you know. But I just, having worked in the pharmaceutical industry, I didn't want to write about it. And maybe that time will come, and also most of the good script work that I would be able to do, I probably have to get legal approval anyway. So, but no, it's for me, the work I was doing was in very specific health policy and government relations work at a team that I worked with across the country. And it was really around bringing the innovations to the marketplace. And in Canada, it's a publicly funded healthcare system. And so the relationships you have with the governments are really important because they're a payer in the marketplace. Nothing to do with script writing.
And, how did you transition to script writing? Is it something that you loved before? Is it something that you just discovered later in life? Because we all watch movies. Fairly simple, okay? But to move on to actually write some scripts and buy a final draft or whatever tool you use to write, just doing that, you are in the top 2%, I guess, something like that. What decided on the move? What motivated you? When was the moment that happened, like, oh, I'm going to write now?
Great question. The same kind of question I got from my family when I started to say this is something I was going to do. The looks on some of the faces I got from friends and family that I was doing script writing was almost worth doing it. For me, my sort of journey was during COVID. We were in the world of the work that I was in. It was extremely busy time because we were in the race for bringing the vaccine to the world. And but the types of activities that I had available, like most people, were really shut down. So the social activities, sporting activities, interactions. And what I did is I picked up a book. It's called the Coffee Writer Screen Book or something. It was by Pilar Alexandra, and really what her she's not about her. It's about the art of and the craft of script writing.
Yeah.
And I just found it really interesting. I mean, there's poetry, there's creative writing, there's playwriting. There's different types of formats, and I really found the script writing just an interesting discipline within creative writing. And there's rules and there's structure and there's pieces of it, and I liked that challenge. And so what I did was I signed up for coursework with her and other novice learners. And each Saturday during COVID, we would get on a Zoom call and we'd work on these scripts. And it was a process where you got to present and review and looked at and build these scripts. And I just found it very, relaxing is not the right word, but, at that time, it was a great opportunity and it was something to do. And I kind of piqued a real sort of a knowledge interest for me to do something outside my comfort zone. And it's a safe environment. I mean, it's an opportunity to learn.
Yep.
Then we got back out of COVID, back to normal sort of life and busyness and other social activities, and sort of put that aside. That was sort of a episode. And then when I retired, I had more time, and I sort of went back, because it wasn't that long afterwards. And I went back to some of the projects that I was working on, and I started to touch them up a bit. And I just found that
you realized there was something there.
Yeah, and as it turns out, I've done 3 features in 12 months. So I'm really trying to get something off my system at the moment. So, and this recent one that I've submitted to the Script Awards for Los Angeles is I'm really kind of getting that stage now where I'm looking for, where does my work fit with other international.
Interesting. So you use that kind of learning curve, that time to learn the craft, read the books, practice, create, write multiple scripts. And now you are kind of at the next step, like you feel you're ready to go get some outside feedback in a more professional way, maybe a contest, competition, all that kind of stuff. It is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm sort of at that stage now. The first works that I did were clearly student type projects. They weren't ready for prime time. And I was even sharing them with my friends and family. This was very much sort of a work in progress. And then I got into sort of the area of interest that I have found for me, and it may change, but where I'm at right now is I'm doing screenplays based on historical events. So they involve research into an actual event that might be well known, so I did one that was based on around World War II.
Okay.
I did one that was based on constitutional slavery, and this one that is with the Script Awards Los Angeles is a true crime based in Canada. So they're very different, but the similarity they all have is that the characters are real. The story is real.
Oh.
And
based on actual events.
Yes. So these are the script is an adaptation of a historical event that's not well illustrated or hasn't been talked about before, and it's sort of taking the human stories of those historical events, and then coloring in between the lines to develop a story that is, there's lots of interpretation, there's, fictional components of it, but the events that take place and the characters in the script are all true.
I want to go back on something that you mentioned. The first scripts you wrote, you said they were kind of student pieces of work. You still get some recognition. I think you went to the Big Apple Script or Film Festival. You get some accolades. So you really, what I find genuine in your path to script writing is really that you took the time, even if you wrote a lot in a limited amount of time, you went through all the steps to learn, produce, adjust your craft, go to friends and family, and then go to the next circle, and then now going to the film festivals. You sound like someone who's pretty organized and grounded, going in like, okay, I'm ready, I'm going to the next step. The step after that, this is what I need to learn, and this is my to-do list. Am I correct in my assertion?
I think you're flattering me, Matt. Thank you so much. Okay. But it may sound more organized and more grounded as I tell it to you. It's been, but for me, it's just a joy. Right now I'm finding that the gratification I get is increasing the level of the competition and the quality of the screenwriting. I think the one that I have submitted, Piece Undone, which is the name of this feature for the Script Awards in Los Angeles, this festival, I think is better than the previous two. And hopefully my next one
is going to be better than that.
To improve. Yeah. And, but I'm spending more time on it, but it's also, I feel like the quality is getting better because the feedback from festivals like this one and others provide you very useful insights to do other drafts. And so it's not just you're submitting and walking away, you're submitting and you're getting feedback.
You're putting yourself out there, and the discussions, the networking, the actual feedbacks, sometimes you receive talking about the project and the way you approach the craft, all of that, it helps. It helps getting out of your bubble and getting, again, outside of it in the next area, and then say, okay, how am I going to navigate to the next step? How am I going to fit? Is there anything I need to adjust? And that's what's beautiful about script writing, I think. It's that most scriptwriters are in a constant open-minded state of mind. You're constantly accepting feedback. You're constantly rewriting in your mind. You're constantly rewriting on the computer. And that usually is a sign of intelligence because you are open to the world and it's difficult, but you let your ego aside to let the story talk. So I think it's always fascinating to talk with scriptwriters. You are in Canada. The script takes place in Canada, and the real events you mentioned were also in Canada, correct?
That's right. It's the time frame for this historical event is in 1919 in northern Alberta. Alberta is one of the big provinces in Western Canada. I live in British Columbia, but I did grow up in Alberta. And it's a mass murder that took place in 1919 in Grand Prairie. And Grand Prairie is a small town in what they call the Peace Country. And it's an interesting period because 1919 is post-World War I. So you have a situation where there's, service men and women coming back from World War I, and there's a lot of issues related to PTSD that really was not clarified and understood. No. There's also in this time of Canadian history, a lot of immigration had taken place at the turn of the century. So there's a lot of Europeans in these frontier towns who were setting up homesteads. It was more affordable, and there's a real mix of ethnic backgrounds from different parts of the world, primarily Western and Eastern Europe. But that created some tension because not everyone went to fight in World War I. So you have that kind of community tension. Yeah. You also have the introduction of the Spanish flu of that time frame. It was coming into Canada, and it was devastating for the world and it changed how people lived. And so you have this tension of post-World War I, the introduction of a pandemic, a frontier town, and an unexplained mass murder of 6 people. So that's the setting. And the story, it's never was solved. So when I was working on this, script, I was really trying to find primary sources and reference sources of what happened. And it really it's not well documented. There's bits and pieces of it. And as I was doing the research, I found out that over time, different people were telling different versions of that story. So it became sort of not an urban myth because it was all accurate.
Kind of a legend, something that
it did. But the
history.
but there wasn't the forensics. The police work wasn't. I mean, in those frontier towns of that time, the sheriffs essentially were looking after, rustlers and bootleggers. They weren't doing murder investigations. Plus, a lot of the able-bodied police officers had been in the war. So the ones who were actually available, was different types of individuals who may have been available to put their name forward to serve in the armed forces, or in Canada, at that time it's called Northwest Mounted Police. So that's the setting, and I think
so that's the setting. It's kind of a period piece because it's early 20th century.
Yeah.
You gave us the setting, the landscape, the tension around that period of time. What angle did you choose to write this story in the form of a script? And how much did you digress from the reality or the documented reality?
Great questions. I started with the actual details of the murder, because that of all of the components of the case that was documented, how the bodies were found and where they're found, and the type of weapons that were used. Where I took it, so I'm not just doing a script on the murder. That's the premise.
Yeah.
The angle I took was really about the three officers who, in their own, and this is where I created it for them, they have their own struggles. They have their own pain and life stories, and the three of them work together to solve this case. So one of the characters is he's sort of the lead inspector, and he had just returned from World War I as a vet. So what you read, and as the audience sees, is that inspector has brought home some trauma that he's hiding from the war. The second officer, who's the sergeant, they used to work together and they're friends in Grand Prairie, but he was older, so he didn't go to World War I. So he was basically managing the police force in Grand Prairie through the war. Okay. So he knows people. He's aware of the individuals. He kind of keeps track of things. And the third officer is a young guy, and he didn't serve because he's a pacifist. So he's from he's a Doukhobor, which is a very in Western Canada community that immigrated, but they're conscientious objectors. So he's serving as a officer, but doesn't really believe in violence. So those are the three characters who are solving the mystery, and so it's really about the journey that they take together to try to solve the character. Those three are real individuals.
Real individuals? Did you contact the families? Did you have access to family pictures?
There was
how deep did you go into the research?
There's one book written on this case by a local person, local Albertan, and it was self-published.
Okay.
And so there's that account, and in that account, the author did the investigation on his own, sort of followed things up, and he surmised who he felt was the criminal at the end, who the person who done it. So but that was never. But yeah. So there were a number of suspects that were, and they are in the script as well, but none of them were convicted.
Okay.
So I use that source. There are periodicals from that time online. Okay. So there's the Grand Prairie Tribune, and there's reporting of the events. So you do have the sequence of events and how the media at that time reported it.
Yeah.
And the angle of that was kind of interesting, reading the primary sources from the media coverage of 1919 murder case, was they were really frustrated with the police. They felt that they weren't doing a very good job. So that was, I brought some of that into the script as well. Sort of a micro version of what you might get in media coverage today for murder crime, but it took place in this case. So those are the main sources. There are each online, most of it's done online. There are other links to pieces. I had some support from about the Spanish flu and about World War I, and so there's other pieces of it I was able to piece together. And it's not perfect, but
it's a script.
Feel like I tried my best to keep the integrity of the story, and that was actually turned out to be a challenge for me, because the actual murder scenes are really confounding in terms of motive. And so it would have been tempting to kind of change the murder scenes that were discovered so that I could build up a motive for one of the suspects.
Which makes sense. I mean, you're working with source material that's available and that exists, and then you still have to make a script out of it that's going to have enough entertainment and enough coherence. So there's a story to tell, and that's always the challenge. Like it's a script, it's a work of fiction based out of actual events.
And the challenge I had, actually I had lots of challenges, but you could read the script and say, well, that would never happen. But in this case, it did. Like the part of the storyline, the core premise of the murders is accurate. So, it's possible someone could go through the script and sort of say, I don't like the ending. Well, that's kind of how to end it.
Do you watch true crime documentaries in a different way now you've written that script?
I do a bit. I don't watch or follow a lot of true crime podcasts. This was the first for me in terms of an area of interest. But I do realize how important it is if you know who did it and why. And this one was, was having it as an unsolved murder to come up with sort of a solution to it, so that wasn't completely unsatisfying to the reader. That was new for me. So
we talked about the settings and the background and landscape. We talked about the characters. One question I had for you, it's 105 pages. It's rather short in today's industry for scripts, which I think is very good. Was it something that you had in mind, like you wanted the script to be accessible, or is it just that the story fit in that amount of pages?
Script length, there are targets for feature scripts, and 120 is generally the record. There are some festivals that won't take them over 120. So I've had my first one of my first scripts I've done. This is my sort of fourth one. Was I think 130, 135, and to get into one festival, I actually had to limited. And I actually found that process of kind of editing it better made it stronger too. So I took away from that experience that really make sure each scene is meaningful. The dialogue is telling part of the story and not just rambling a bit. And you do get kind of close to these characters, and I think it's understandable.
So you sound
to add additional information that you think is kind of interesting that really doesn't make that much difference to the plot. So with this particular one, I was very diligent on trying to keep it succinct and to the story. And I knew it was going to come in a little bit as a lower script. But my next challenge, I'm going to actually work on a short script. I'm going to try one that's even shorter. Like, there's that category for shorts, and I've never done one like that. So I'm gonna push myself into that for my next.
It's definitely another way to, not another way. It's a different challenge to compress and still be meaningful. It's a very different.
What's that old?
I've done a movie like that. I've done a movie inspired by real events, and the shorter it is, I want to say the easier it is to kind of discard the rules. Because if you make a 5-minute script or movie, you don't necessarily have to do 3-act structure or a 5-act structure. There was no question in that, but I want to kind of fall back on my feet.
It reminds me of that old saying that I'm sorry I'm writing you a long letter because I didn't have time to write you a short one.
Yeah, true.
And keeping things not short but concise,
specific,
sometimes more difficult.
It is
than just laying it all out there and having someone read your.
Because you're forced to make choices. When you have to trim it down, you have to choose what you keep. And even sometimes you're going to remove stuff that makes sense, but maybe they weigh less than other elements you're going to keep at the end. So it's all about a balancing game of what's the most important. Everything is important, but what's indispensable. And that is scriptwriter's logic. It's like, is my dialogue adding something? Is my dialogue adding something to the story, to the character, to the scene? Is that scene moving the story forward? Is that flashback really necessary from the viewer's perspective? All that kind of stuff. We are getting close to the end. I want to ask you a couple of questions. What's your structure? Is it a very kind of academic 3 acts, or did you defer in some aspects?
I'm still at that sort of more structured academic approach. I do an outline. I do an outline to start with. Once I've got the idea and the plot, I do the outline in 3 acts, and for a feature, and then double confirm that there's a script here.
Okay.
And with the arc of the plot for each of those acts and the beats of the scenes, I really try to make sure I'm fleshing that out. Then I start the writing and following the outline. And like I'm sure you've interviewed many writers, you play around with it a bit. Sometimes that outline doesn't. I'm not bound to it. I try to follow it, and sometimes you have ideas and you wake up, you go, oh, I'm gonna add that, and you put it together and you piece it. But generally, that's my approach: is do the research on the topic, work on an outline, think about the characters, and then break it up into 3 acts, and then start writing.
I like it. The structure is always good to have, and the more you have it, the easier it becomes to kind of walk away from it or walk around it, and give that freedom to your characters within the frame of moving the story forward. Last question for you. The title, Piece Undone. Can you explain it to me?
So the piece is a double entendre. So there's peace being, harmony. So there's a community where that harmony is broken up because there's a murder. So it's a peaceful town, and the peace is broken because of this heinous crime. It also takes place in part of the province that's known as the Peace Country.
Oh.
So there's a Peace River. There's a town of Peace River, which is not too far from Grand Prairie, and it's also known as Peace Country. So that's the double meaning.
Okay.
So both senses of the word are undone. I kind of liked it. I could have said, Murder on the Prairie or Death on
Yeah, and
Grand Prairie.
the title may change over the course of the life of a script and of a
Yeah,
movie, because
yeah.
at some point, usually when you reach the distribution phase, a distribution company may change the title to become more appealing to a certain demographic, whatever. But definitely, you have a title that's original. It's kind of unique. I've never, a lot of time, script titles are kind of all the same, and yours is not. So it's.
I'm going to defer to the Los Angeles experts on what my title should be. I think there's a lot more experience in your festival and the people who are looking at it than I have. So that was the title I came up with, but it's.
I think it works for that story, and that's what's important, because it's part of the message. It's part of the vibe, the color you wanna talk about. So it has to make sense. It's not just a generic title. And
hopefully it drives a little bit of interest, and maybe it creates a little bit of interest.
Yeah, definitely. Bob, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, man.
Very interesting discussion. You get me to travel a little bit to Canada today. I appreciate that. And I wish you the very best for that script and for your next steps into script contests and film festivals. I think it's a solid project, and I'm pretty sure you'll have more and more success coming your way.
Matt, thank you for your kind words. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this podcast, and it means a lot to me. And I look forward to the next step and see what the feedback comes from the submission for the feature screenplay.
Thank you very much.
Fingers crossed. All right, take care.
Have a very good rest of your day. Bye bye.
Very good day to you.